Okay, we're going to use power rules in exponential functions, and we need to refresh some of the rules. So the first thing I'm going to do is talk about powers to powers. And right here, I have a power to power. And when I have a power to another power, I'm multiplying those powers together, which gives me a power of 6 in this particular case. I'm going to work this part out for you and say, if I have a power of 2 that's touching the parenthesis, that means I have the parentheses twice. And inside the parentheses, I have an a to the third, right? This is why this is true. And this means that I have a in that first parenthesis and a in that second parenthesis, which gives me 6 of them. And that's where this a to the 6 comes from. The shortcut is multiplying the powers. So if I multiply my 3 times 2, I get 6. So this is where this comes from. I'm going to use this rule with fractional exponents. We need to be able to do the same thing with fractions. So if I have something like a to the 1/4, and then I take that whole thing to the x power, what I'm doing is multiplying my exponent, which will give me a to the 1/4 times x, and this gives me a to the 1/4 x, or I could write this as a to the x over 4. That's the same thing. Because when I'm multiplying this part right here, I could really say this is really x over 1, because any whole number over itself, or excuse me, any whole number over 1 is itself. So that gives me this x over 4. Okay, so if I know this goes one direction, right, if I know it goes this direction, it also goes that direction. So I'm going to make a point of saying we're really going to focus on going that direction. Okay, so let's suppose we're given an equation and we are asked to find the rate. Well, my rate is going to be somewhere inside the parentheses, but I've got to deal with the fact that I have this weird exponent, because normally my equation's in the form of y equals a b to the x, and or ab to the t. I'm going to change this to t because our equation says t this time. So some a times b to the t, and my t has something else with it, so I've got to deal with that. So I'm going to take my t over 4 and I'm going to go in this direction and go back to being like this. And when I do that, I end up with this 1/4 to the t right here. And that makes it so that I can deal with just this part right here and simplify that. If I want to simplify that, I'm going to put that in my calculator. And the way that I would put that into my calculator is I would say I've got 0.96, and I use this little caret key. So I know that I'm using my powers. And I'm going to put my fraction exponent in parentheses, because if I do that, my calculator knows that the whole thing is, to the power of 1/4 instead of to the power of 1 and then divided by 4, because it'll do something different if you don't use the parentheses. So put the parentheses in. Okay, so once I put that in my calculator, what I'm going to get is I'm going to get this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get this guy right here. So that's about what I'm going to get. And I want to round that, and 0.9898 is going to round to approximately 0.99. And that's what I'm going to use to replace, and I'll make this green again. So I'm going to take this stuff right here, and I'm going to replace it and put in that 0.99 instead, because I've done the math. Okay. Now I have it really close to this form that I'm looking for. I have it really close to this y equals a b to the t. I've got y equals a b to the t, right? So that's where I wanted it to be. And now I got to answer the question of the rate. And the rate, my b, is a decay. And I know that, so it's a decay. And I know that because my 0.99, right, this part, is between 0 and 1. So that makes it a decay. And when I'm using a decay, I am subtracting a rate from 1. So I'm going to say that if my B is 0.99 and my 0.99 is the same as saying 1 minus some rate, I can figure out what my rate is. Okay, so I'm going to get my 1 minus my 0.99 is going to end up being my rate, and I get that it's 0.01. And when I'm doing rate, I need to turn it back into a decimal, so I'm going to move this 2 places, and that's going to give me my 1% decay.